Hello, and thank you all for giving me a chance to speak tonight. My name is Souza Grapentine, and I'm running for state representative in the towns of Bristol and Portsmouth because I want to make Rhode Island the powerhouse of opportunity that it was for the greatest generation. As a lifelong Rhode Islander and Bristolian, fourth generation, I have always had the same patriotism that is imbued with that of our founders. I've always been very active in local causes, local organizations, and as early as high school, I got involved with local and state politics, helping various candidates and state representatives. And as the time has gone by, as the years have passed, and even as recent as my college graduation, I have seen our state plunder of resources. We are now hitting virtually 13% unemployment rate. And with $220 million in the hole of debt, it's unquestionable that we need to do a 180 to make our state better for current and future generations. That's why I'm running for state representative. In 2008, I ran for a first time. And this year, after the federal level has had so many unquestionably poor decisions from the Obama administration, what's happening on the state level is the same thing term after term, session after session, year after year, for many, many, many election cycles. Many people treat our state house as a monarchy because we don't have term limits. My opponent, he's been in for over a decade. And when you have the same people in office, you get the same policy results. I may not be an expert in anything save for being a Rhode Islander, playing hard, working by the rules, and doing what's right by the community. And I want to bring that same passion and that same love of people and doing right for them to the State House. And whether you're Republican or Democrat, you cannot ignore the numbers. Things need to change in Rhode Island, and that's why I'm running for state representative. Thank you. On the broader point, I have to say, being in a very high Portuguese American community, I learned during the last election cycle that they are fighting mad at illegal immigration, people breaking our laws. Sure, they come here for opportunity, but that's not how my great-grandparents did it years ago. That's not how they came to Ellis Island, and that's not what we should be encouraging now. No, instead of seeing tent cities go up in Providence and a double-digit unemployment rate that is staggeringly high for the smallest state, we should be looking at ways to foster opportunity. And as for relying on the federal government, this is where my strong opinions on the founding fathers come into play. I believe that by relying on the federal government for anything major like that, even just to pay us back so it doesn't come from state tax dollars, you are encouraging more government programs. Now, I would be for, hypothetically speaking, a bill that maybe gives a tax break to people of bilingual education who want to take time out of their schedule to teach English to non-English speaking students. That's great. Give them a tax break because you're encouraging opportunity, you're fostering growth, and fostering the tools that people need to get by, because we are, as politically incorrect as this can sound, a predominantly English-speaking state and country. And I think if we do that, it'll solve the problems. Ronald Reagan once said, there should be no limit to human growth because there's no limit to ingenuity, imagination, and wonder. And with all respect to the great communicator, I don't think he saw Rhode Island in the year 2010. Barring that, before I mention what we can do to help the state, let's talk about how our current elected officials in the legislature are hurting the state. I assume many of you followed how a bunch of Governor Kachiri's vetoes were overturned this week. One of them included a bill that disincentivizes the fishing industry, which my great-grandfather, Falco Souza, was many years ago, decades ago. And now the fishing industry has to pay a tax. It's like a surcharge to go out and fish or claw hog. And that kind of mentality has to stop. Instead of disincentivizing an industry, a trade, an idea, we have to incentivize. We have to get people out of the state and bring here the next best thing. I mean, we know there's talk of wind turbines. In fact, in Portsmouth, I believe there's a factory right now that makes wind turbines. We're lucky they're in the state, but wouldn't it be nice, no offense to them, if they had a competitor? Huh? A new idea that comes to the state, and the only way they'll do that is if we give them huge tax breaks for maybe a limited number of years, and then once they settle down here, then we can start collecting some taxes from them. But we have to encourage them here first. Meanwhile, as for education, because I know that was mentioned by the others on the panel, I'm a product of both public and Catholic schools. And in my town, thank you, amen. We used to have a nice grade school, St. Elizabeth's School, which was connected to a church in my town. It lasted for decades and generations, and now it's gone. If we brought back lower taxes for private schools, there would be more educating jobs, and if we just settle on one form of education in the public sector, then we'll settle for mediocrity. We need competition in education too. On the state level, there's so much we can do. It's funny, right now there was another bill overturned in a veto that gives free health care to public school teachers. And that's not fair. What happened to shared sacrifice? We need to look at things like having more HMOs brought into the state. Again, competition, give them a low tax rate. You know, we need to have more than just Blue Cross, with no offense to Blue Cross because they're the only ones here. We need to have a multitude of companies to choose from that compete against each other, and ultimately that will solve part of the problem. The other one is tort reform. Yes. This past summer at one of the town hall meetings, I had the pleasure of going to both Reed and White House by suggesting tort reform. But it should be on both a national level and a state level. And with so many representatives in the legislature, including my opponent being a lawyer, I think that there would be a conflict of interest if he suggested something so bold. But tort reform on a state level, I'd support that bill. Thank you.